The story begins with our protagonist finding himself in a strange, ethereal space where he is greeted by a supreme being. She introduces herself as Lady Nolan and informs him that he has been summoned to Midgard through an otherworlder summoning spell. However, almost immediately, she apologizes, explaining that his summoning was an accident. The ritual was meant for someone else. Confused, the protagonist points out the contradiction. She welcomed him, yet claims his presence is a mistake. Nolan elaborates, explaining that the summoning system randomly selects individuals from countless worlds, but he was never supposed to be a target. Somehow, the system picked him anyway. Nolan further clarifies that the summoning spell itself is extremely dangerous, because the laws of Earth and Midgard are so different that summoning someone risks destabilizing Midgard entirely. This danger led to the spell being forbidden, yet a reckless nation still went through with it. Nolan sensed the spell's activation and intervened to minimize the damage, but she couldn't stop it completely. Instead, she managed to pull him into her domain for now. The protagonist asks if others summoned by the spell are in the same place as him. Nolan shakes her head and explains that the intended targets were successfully sent to the Holy Sidonia Empire, where the summoning originated. Realizing that his arrival was purely accidental, he asks if she can send him back to Earth. But Nolan regretfully admits that it's impossible. Furious at the summoners for their recklessness, she took measures to ensure they would never be able to use the spell again. And Nolan bluntly tells him that not only is returning impossible, but he no longer has a body to go back to. At that moment, he realizes something shocking. His body is gone. He is nothing more than a floating soul in the shape of a fluffy furball. Panicked, he demands to know what will happen to him now. Nolan sympathizes with his situation and urges him to give up on his old life and start anew in Midgard. When he hesitantly asks if that means being sent to the Sidonia Empire like the others, Nolan admits that she could send him there, but warns him that Sidonia is a dangerous place, and as an accidental summon, he would likely be treated horribly. This disheartens him, but Nolan reassures him that she feels responsible for his situation and intends to help. She offers to send him to a different nation where he would have a better chance at life, and promises to grant him her blessing as compensation. Confused, he listens as she explains that his situation is similar to stories in anime and games from Japan, being transported to a fantasy world full of adventure. She enthusiastically tells him it will be exciting, but he feels nothing but anxiety. Ignoring his doubts, Nolan instructs him to try opening his status window. To his surprise, when he thinks about it, the window appears. It shows that he is now 17 years old, even though he was a 40-year-old salaryman in his previous life. He also notices that he has no job listed. Nolan explains that jobs in this world are different. There are combat roles like swordsman, mage, knight, thief, and hunter, as well as production jobs like herbalist, alchemist, blacksmith, and carpenter. Since he has no interest in fighting, he asks for a production job. Nolan obliges, granting him a skill suited for crafting, along with a few useful starter abilities. She advises that by practicing and improving his skills, he will eventually unlock a formal job title. With that, she sends him to the continent of Asber to begin his new life. The protagonist is teleported to a peaceful spot by a pond. When he looks at his reflection, he thinks he looks surprisingly good in his new form. Checking the items Nolan gave him, he finds some food, money, and a knife. Opening his status window again, he realizes it might be dangerous if people find out about Nolan's blessing. So he experiments with his abilities and discovers he can hide his skills. He quickly conceals both his blessing and his item box ability. Curious about his magic, he decides to test his powers. Avoiding fire magic to prevent an accident, he starts with earth magic followed by wind and water magic. Watching the spells in action, he feels a rush of excitement. This truly is a fantasy world. Determined to learn more, he sets off in search of a village. Along the way, he stumbles upon a piece of wood and uses his appraisal skill to identify it as Trent wood, a high-quality material from a tree monster used for crafting staves, magical items, and spear shafts. Thrilled by the discovery, he uses his blacksmithing skill to shape the wood into a sturdy spear. Observing the rich resources around him, he speculates that the plants might also be valuable. His search confirms that the area is full of useful herbs, so he gathers as much as he can. However, his bag quickly fills up, so he stores the excess in his item box, which conveniently has unlimited storage. Suddenly, a girl runs toward him in panic and hides behind him. She is being chased by a massive, ferocious rabbit. He immediately notices its unnatural size and grabs his spear to protect her. The girl warns him that the rabbit is carnivorous, making him even more nervous. As the creature lunges at him, he instinctively strikes it down with his spear, killing it instantly. Shocked, he stands in disbelief. He actually defeated a dangerous beast, but this unexpected victory grants him the warrior job, even though he has no interest in combat. The girl thanks him for saving her and explains that she is from Bard Village. She had wandered into the forest while gathering medicinal herbs. He asks if he can accompany her back to the village, and she happily agrees. As they leave, she mentions that horn rabbit meat is considered a delicacy and asks if he plans to take the corpse. Realizing its value, he stores it in his item box, explaining that while the box can't hold living things, it can store non-living objects like corpses. The girl is amazed by his ability. She introduces herself as Molly, and he responds by giving his name, Takumi. Meanwhile, in the Holy Sidonia Empire, the three summoned humans find themselves confused about their situation. A cloaked woman approaches, welcoming them to their new world. She tells them they have been summoned as heroes to save the realm, but her cryptic explanation only deepens their confusion. She then reveals her identity, Elizabeth, the first empress of the Holy Sidonia Empire. Her expression carries an eerie intensity, as if she could devour their souls in a dark alley. Among the three, a girl named Ani suddenly receives a unique skill called Revelation from Lady Nolan. This skill grants her divine insight, instructing her to trust her instincts. Following her intuition, Ani immediately decides not to trust Elizabeth. Everything about her screams danger. Back in Bard Village, Molly's parents warmly thank Takumi for saving their daughter. Her father, Banga, introduces himself as a hunter, while her mother, Martha, expresses deep gratitude. Takumi asks if he can stay in the village for a while, and they happily agree, mentioning that the area is rich in herbs and even has an ore vein nearby. This excites him. Banga then introduces the village blacksmith, Boban. When Takumi asks about lodging, the villagers inform him that there is no inn, but offer to build him a home instead. He is genuinely touched by their kindness. As construction begins, Takumi helps by using his earth magic to level the ground. The villagers are impressed by his abilities, but the effort drains his mana significantly. Banga advises him to conserve his energy. Once his home is completed, Takumi uses his carpentry and blacksmithing skills to craft furniture. Feeling settled, he checks his status window and wonders if he can change his warrior job. To his surprise, an option appears, allowing him to switch jobs. Excited, he selects Alchemist and Blacksmith as his main professions and starts refining ores. However, he pushes himself too hard and collapses. Molly and Martha scold him for overexerting himself and ensure he rests properly. Takumi continues honing his craft. Over several days, he extracts various metals, including rare ones like magic iron. Using these materials, he creates high-quality tools and utensils. His relentless effort pays off, rapidly increasing his alchemist and blacksmith levels. Afterward, we see Takumi honing his blacksmithing skills under Boban's guidance, using his fire magic to assist in their work. Together, they craft a knife, and Boban proudly declares it his finest creation yet. Takumi's blacksmith level skyrockets to 40, but his alchemist level lags behind at 33, much to his frustration. His real goal is to master alchemy. Determined, Takumi approaches Banga, asking for potions so he can experiment with making his own. Banga agrees but only has basic potions to offer, which Takumi gladly accepts. Soon, he's brewing potions like a mad scientist, reminding himself of his childhood days spent experimenting. Once his potion is complete, he notices its color is different from Banga's, and even radiates faint mana. He realizes it's because he used water prepared with water magic, making him eager to discover more potion recipes.